Very good afternoon, students, and welcome to today's English class. Today we are going to take the poem Rain on the Roof written by Coach Kinney, and this is session 2 on this poem. Before I'll start this poem, I'll help you with the recap of what we have learned in our last lesson. This is rather, if not difficult, but yes, it is a little tricky poem. So you have to understand it very clearly before you can answer the questions. So without further ado, let us start with the explanation of the remainder of the poem that is left, and also I'll help you recap of what we have done in our last sitting. So I'll quickly help you understand who's the poet of this poem, Rain on the Roof. His name is Coates Kinney, and he was one of the pioneer American poets. He had also been a lawyer, politician, and a journalist. And one of his most famous work that was set to music was Rain on the Roof, the one that we are going to learn right now. So let us quickly recap of on what we have learned about this poem in our last session. I've already told you that this poem tells us what the poet is thinking about when he hears the sound of the rain falling. So you have to keep few things in your mind. First thing, that this poem is set on a rainy night. So it's raining outside, and because it's raining outside, poet starts to think about a lot of events. There are a lot of thoughts that come visiting the poet. So you have to keep in mind one, that the poet is in his cottage. Where is he lying? He is lying on his cottage chamber window. What time of the day is it? It is the night time of the day. And the starry spheres, all the stars in the sky, were covered behind the moisture-laden clouds. These clouds are dark, and there is darkness outside. Now, this darkness is symbolic of the sadness that the poet is feeling inside. There is something that poet is sad about. And this inner sadness is reflected in the weather outside. The weather is also heavy. And then the heavy weather outside, the darkness, the clouds here, they start to shed tears in form of raindrops. And it starts to rain outside. And when it starts raining, poet is also soothed from inside. Because we all know that rain has the healing power. It heals not only just the earth, but also those who live on earth, like we human beings. Furthermore, we get to know that as it starts to rain, the poet listens to the pitter-patter of the raindrops falling on the top of the roof. He could hear the raindrops falling on the shingles. And lots of random thoughts, they start to visit the poet. Now, the thoughts that come to poet, they are not discrete, they are not separated from each other. In fact, they form a kind of a patchwork. And the poet can now visualize these thoughts in front of him. And we will see what these thoughts are and what effect these thoughts have on the poet. Is poet happy on a rainy night? We'll all find it out as we go ahead with the explanation of the poem Rain on the Roof. Now, before I help you with the recap, we have to keep a few things in mind again. First thing, the setting of the poem. Now, the poem is set in a countryside, a rural area, a village, because the poet is in his cottage. Furthermore, what kind of night it is. First, there were a lot of stars in the sky. And then all these stars were hidden behind the clouds that have covered the expanse of sky. So the stars are no longer visible. What kind of clouds are these? Now, these are moisture-laden clouds, meaning that they contain moisture and it will start to rain. These clouds are dark in color. And the darkness of the clouds is the same sadness which is in the poet's heart. And then these clouds, they start to weep like human beings. So it starts to rain. And when it rains, the poet feels happy about it. He lies listening to the patter of the soft rainfall overhead. And where is he lying? He is lying on his cottage chamber bed. And what is one thing that is giving him a lot of pleasure? I'll tell you. The poet derives pleasure from the rainfall that's falling outside, and he's enjoying the comfort of his cottage chamber bed, and he's pressing himself against the pillow. So it's a very comfortable setting for the poet. He's enjoying this setting. Yes, there is sadness in his heart because there are a lot of thoughts that come visiting to the poet. In the last stanza, we will understand why the poet felt sad. Okay, so let us look at the first stanza real quick. I'll read it for you one more time. When the humid shadows hover over the starry spheres and the melancholy darkness gently weeps in rainy tears. So the poet starts the poem by telling his readers that there are dark clouds. Now, humid shadows refers to dark clouds. And how are the clouds? They are moisture laden. So he says, when the humid shadows, meaning clouds, when they hang all over the starry spheres, meaning that all the stars that were there up in the sky, they are now all invisible behind these dark clouds. And what starts to happen? These dark clouds, they seem to be sad. And when you're sad, you start to weep, you start to cry. And how does clouds cry? The clouds cry by shedding raindrops. And the poet is enjoying the weather. He is lying in his cottage chamber bed. He is in the comfort of his cottage chamber bed. He has pressed himself up against the pillow, and he is enjoying the pitter-patter of the raindrops, the soft rain that is falling overhead. Overhead means above. I'll help you one more time with the poetic devices, though we will discuss them in the end, but let's look at the poetic devices which are used in the first line. In the first line, humid shadows refers to clouds. Now, this poetic device is known as a transferred epithet. Remember this word, transferred epithet. I'll help you understand a transferred epithet at the end of the session. The second, starry spheres. Now, this is again, this is alliteration, starry sphere, the consonant sound sa and sa. And starry spheres is also one other poetic device. This is a metaphor. Okay. Moving on. It's not a metaphor. My bad. Starry sphere is actually an alliteration. My bad. And the melancholy darkness. Now, melancholy darkness is again transferred epithet. This poetic device. Gently weeps in rainy tears. So darkness gently weeps in rainy tears. This is personification, because it's only human beings who can weep. We'll discuss this as we move to the poetic devices section at the end of this session. So that's what's happening. So we have seen the setting in the first stanza. We also see that where the poet is lying, how is he feeling, and whether or not he's enjoying listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. Moving on to the next stanza. This is stanza number 2. The poet says that every tinkle on the shingles has an echo in the heart, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being start. And 1,000 recollections weave their air threads into woof as I listen to the patter of the rain upon the roof. So the poet says that every tinkle on the shingles, so every raindrops that falls on shingles. Now, shingles are rectangular tiles which are used on sloping roofs. So the poet says that every raindrop that was falling on the shingles was reciprocated, should I say, was reciprocated by his heartbeat. So every raindrop that fell on the shingles, it was reciprocated by the poet's heartbeats. An echo means reverberation or resonance. So every raindrop that fell on the shingles found an echo or a resonance in the poet's heartbeats, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being start. And like these thousands and thousands of raindrops that are falling outside, in the same manner, thousands of memories, thousands of dreamy fancies, thousands of imaginary stories start to visit the poet's mind. So thousands of raindrops falling outside and thousands of memories coming and visiting the poet. And how do they come? They come like busy being. They start immediately. They start to come in lots of numbers. And 1,000 recollections weave their air threads into woof. And all these memories, they start to take a shape of a cluster. So these memories, they come random, but most important of all, that is the fact that these memories are not separate from each other, because these memories are the part of the poet's past, of the time that he has spent in the past. So all these memories, all these recollections that come to the poet are the events that had happened with him in the past. He was in those events. And these events, they are not discrete, they are not separated from each other, and they all start to, you must have tried to play a puzzle where you put all the pieces into a puzzle and then you see the shape. In the same manner, all these thoughts come and they kind of clear the puzzle, and now the poet can see a clear picture. So all these thoughts are interconnected that come to him. And while all this thing is happening, while all these beautiful thoughts are getting interconnected with each other and forming a patchwork of memories for the poet, he's still enjoying the pitter patter of the rain upon the roof. Moving on to the last stanza. This is our session 2 now. Now in memory comes my mother, as she used in years agone to regard the darling dreamers, or she left them till the dawn. Oh, I feel her fond look on me as I list to this refrain, which is played upon the shingles by the patter of the rain. In this stanza, the poet describes the first memory that he can actually identify among the patchwork of his memories. He remembers that during his childhood, his mother used to look at him and his siblings as they were sleeping and having pleasant dreams. His mother would make a point to look at them every night, for she knew she would not see them again till the next morning. His mother would bend down and watch over him in particular. These memories are evoked as he listens to the repetitive rhythm of the raindrops as they are falling on his roof. I'll help you understand. So as I've told you that there are thousands and thousands of memories that are visiting the poet, like the rain, thousands and thousands of raindrops that are falling outside. Of all these memories that come visiting the poet, one memory that he can actually, or should I say clearly identify with, is the memory of his mother. And he distinctively remembers, he particularly remembers something that his mother did every day, years and years ago. And what did she do? She would look at the darling dreamers. Now, these darling dreamers are her children. So, poet's mother would affectionately, lovingly look at her sleeping children. While they were lost in dreams, she would look at them with a lot of fondness and affection in her eyes. Why? Because she knew in her heart that now she is going to see her children only in the morning. So before mother left for her sleep, she would cast a look of affection, or she would cast an affectionate look on her children. And maybe at the poet in particular, maybe she was more fond of the poet. And poet could still feel his mother's look on him right now, even though she is no more. Now you understand the sadness of the poet, why he feels sad, why he feels heavy in heart, because his mother is no more. He remembers that how his mother every day before going to bed would affectionately look at her children who were fast asleep and maybe having pleasant dreams. And why did she do it? Because she knew that she is going to see them only the next morning. And was the poet asleep? No, maybe he pretended to be asleep. That's the reason he remembers his mother before she goes to her bed. She stays for some time, casts her affectionate look on her sleeping children, and then leaves. And the poet, when he is grown up, still now, he feels as if his mother is still looking at him with the same affection in her eyes before he falls asleep. So this tells us that he was very closely connected with his mother. He shared a lot of emotions and connects with a mother. He loved his mother a lot. In any which way, opposites attract. We often see in our lives that a girl child is more attracted to her father and a son is more attracted towards his mother. So he remembers, and see this beautiful picture. Do you see that the smiling baby here? And see this affectionate hugging of a mother. It's pure bliss. It's heavenly. This is a heavenly show of love. Nothing can be more beautiful and pristine than this. A mother's love for her children. So the poet is lost in these thoughts. And he's enjoying the affectionate look of his mother, as if she's still seeing, though the poet's mother is no more. And while he is doing this, while he's lost in this thought rather, while he's lost in this thought, he's still listening to the raindrops that are falling on the shingles, and he can still hear the patter of the rainfall or the raindrops. This is the sum and substance of the poem that I've just taught to you. I'll quickly kind of help you again with one, the summary of the poem. So keep your ears very open. The summary says that the poet has given a very fine imagination while he listens to the patter of the rain on the roof. He is lost in varied thoughts and feels the presence of his mother. Whose presence does he feel? Presence of his mother. The clouds create darkness for the starry sky, and in turn it shows its unhappiness through tears of rain. On one side, there is happiness, while on the other side, there is unhappiness. So the poet is heavy because of the lovely weather outside, and maybe he misses his mother. So he's both happy and unhappy at the same time. The theme of the poem states that when certain events happen, long lost memories come flooding back to our mind. Here, on a rainy day, the poet is listening to the sound made on the roof by the falling raindrops. This pitter-patter sound of raindrops brings back lost memories of the poet about his mother, and most important of all, her affection towards him. The sound of rain appears to create bliss or comfort to the poet. What is the message in this poem? Children, the message is that certain incidents happen that invoke long lost memories and the mind is in bliss. It may be natural scene or a scent or a sound. The sound of rainfall on the roof brings back memories of the poet's childhood. This is super important, that the sound of the rainfall on the roof, it brings back memories of the poet's childhood. And the childhood memories are associated with the age of innocence. Most of us have experienced the love and affection of our mother shown towards us during our childhood. And later in life, we remember them and feel very happy about it. Now, these sort of thoughts come flooding into our mind on a rainy night when we are all alone. So the poet was all alone. His mother was no more. He was missing his mother. And that's the reason he felt sad. And because he was missing his mother, the lovely memories of his mother come visiting him. He could still feel her mother's, casting affectionate look on him, even though she's physically no more. She's dead. Is the title justified? Certainly it is. The poem deals with rain. See, the poet says that all these memories that come to him, the pleasant, lovely memories of his mother that come to him, it's because of the rainfall that's falling outside. So he's alone, he's feeling sad inside. And as I've already told you at the beginning of the poem, that nature's rain has a healing power. So because the poet was lonely, because he was feeling sad, because he was missing his mother, suddenly it starts to rain outside and he feels comfortable, he feels happy. And good thoughts start to visit him. So the title of the poem, Rain on the Roof, is justified. The poet is lying comfortable on his bed and listening to the sound of the raindrops falling on the roof. This poem depicts the overall mood during a rainy night. The rhythmic falling of the raindrops on the roof makes him remember the past, and he gets fond memories of his mother. Since the poem is related to the poet's experience during rain, I repeat, since the poem is related to the poet's experience during the rain, the title is therefore justified. Children, before I help you with the poetic devices in the poem, let me help you with the rhyme scheme. If you have got a pen and paper or a pencil, please make a note of the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E. I repeat. A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E. Right? Now you see mother, that's A. Agone is B. Dreamers is C. And dawn, see the rhyme, agone, dawn. So it's B again. Then it is D. Me is D. Then E is refrain. F is shingles. And then E is again rain. Refrain, rain. So again, rhyming. Hence, the rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E. And this goes for all the stanzas. All right, now I'll help you with the poetic devices. Okay? The first poetic device that is used in this poem is a transferred epithet. Let me help you understand what a transferred epithet is. A transferred epithet is a figure of speech in which an epithet or adjective grammatically qualifies a noun other than the person or thing it is actually describing. Now, that's too much English for you, I guess. No problems. I'll help you understand at the end of this session. So do not leave when I end. Let us see what are the transferred epithets here. The transferred epithet, you see, melancholy, darkness. So underline, if you have, right, melancholy, darkness is transferred epithet. Then humid shadows is another transferred epithet. You're going to find them in the first stanza. So these are the two transferred epithets. The next poetic device is personification. Now, we all know that personification is a figure of speech or a poetic device which is used for an inanimate object or animal, birds look or feel human. So when we give human qualities to any inanimate object or animal or bird to look or feel like human, that's called personification. Like here, darkness, which represents the clouds, they start to gently weep. Now, who weeps? It's human beings. Darkness does not weep, but we have passed the quality of human weep onto the darkness. This is known as personification, because now darkness has human quality of weeping. It can cry. So please underline this. Darkness gently weeps in the form of rainy tears as personification. So we see the poet personifies darkness by giving it human ability to shed tears. Moving on to the next one. The next one is refrain. Now, refrain is a phrase, verse, or group of verses repeated at intervals throughout a song or poem, especially at the end of each stanza. Now, children, if you look very closely, you see that the poet, at the end of each stanza, stanza 1, 2, and 3, speaks of patter of the rain. Now, he repeats this phrase every time. Patter of the rain, patter of the rain, patter of the rain. In all three stanzas, the last line is always patter of the rain. It's repeated. So when such phrases are repeated, they form the central idea of a poem. So a central idea of a poem is called a refrain. Here, the patter of the rain is the central idea, because all the thoughts that are coming to poet is because of the patter of the rain that he listens falling overhead on the roof. That's your refrain. Moving on. The next one is a metaphor. Now, a metaphor is a poetic device which compares two things or qualities which are unlike. Example, humid shadows. Now, humid shadows actually means clouds. So here shadows actually means clouds. So humid shadows means clouds are like humid. So this is your metaphor. Then 1,000 recollections weave their bright hues into wool. The poet compares his memories to a fabric that is being woven with many colored threads together. Like you must have noted that earlier, now all you get is ready-made sweaters, but yes, there was a time when parents, they weaved kind of wool to make a sweater, and these wool were of different colors. So here the poet is trying to say that thousands of memory they weave into a beautiful picture in the same manner as a fabric is woven of many colors, many colored of threads together. Then we have the third one, to survey her darling dreamers. Now, who are darling dreamers? The darling dreamers is a metaphor for her children who are asleep and they're probably dreaming, right? So this is a metaphor. Moving on to the next one, it's onomatopoeia. So every time, children, you hear a word that makes a sound like tinkle, patter, this is onomatopoeia. So an onomatopoeia is a poetic device that uses a word which suggests the meaning by its sound. Moving on to the next one. Alliteration. I am certain that you know what an alliteration is. Humid hover. This is alliteration. Starry sphere. That's also alliteration. Right, so you have all attended, and I am really surprised at the number of students who are attending this class. It's a very meager number, only 18. I'm really surprised at this number, children. Very surprised. Please pass on the message to your friends that they should ensure that they attend these classes. Because it's quite possible that when school opens up, we might not be able to kind of go back to this chapter in such great details. And seeing these numbers, this is really discouraging. Right. How many of you still have doubts on the poetic device transferred epithet? How many of you think that this is one poetic device that we could not understand? Raise your hand. Anyone? Okay. Shriyansh Tiwari says that we have not understood poetic device transferred epithet. Right, Shriyansh, I'm going to unmute you. Unmute yourself, child.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Lovely. Now look, I'm going to do a screen sharing. Just give me a moment while I do this. Hold on to it. Okay. Just give me a moment. I'm onto it because I'll be using a different way of helping you understand this poetic device. And do not mute yourself. You can unmute yourself now again. Priyansh, unmute yourself. Shreyansh, you there? Yeah, good boy. Okay. Yep, here we go. I'll help you understand what this is all about. Okay. You can see that I'm opening a Word document. Can you see this
Yes,
Word document? Is it visible to you?
yes, sir.
That's lovely. Okay. So now I'm going to help you understand what a transferred epithet is. Okay. Now here, epithet is the same as an adjective. Okay. So if I say that Aman is intelligent, okay. Now here, the word intelligent is an adjective. We all know that, right? Because it's describing Aman for us, that what qualities Aman have, that he's intelligent. Is this clear to you till this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's lovely. Right. Now, I'll help you with the poetic device here, transferred epithet, so that you can understand this, okay? Now, we see melancholy darkness. This is used, right? Melancholy darkness is used in the first line. Now, this is a transferred epithet. Now, another transferred epithet that is used here is humid shadows. Okay? Right. So now let's look at this. Now, here darkness, right, is the sadness in poet's heart, right? Now listen,
Yes.
pay attention very carefully, okay? So darkness here is actually the word melancholy. Who is sad? Who is
Poet.
sad? The poet is very good. So melancholy is an
Noun.
no. I'll say melancholy is
Adjective. Adjective.
very good because it is describing.
Darkness.
Yes, darkness is feeling.
Heavy. Heavy
No,
feeling
no.
of
The synonym of melancholy. It's feeling the S word. Sad. Okay.
sad.
So the darkness is feeling.
Darkness is just feeling. Yes, sir.
What is it feeling? The darkness is feeling. So what what state of darkness is shown here?
Sad.
Sadness. Correct. Okay. So let's look at this. Uh, but is darkness sad or poet sad?
It's a poet.
Poet is sad. Okay. So now we have used the quality of the quality that was describing the poet's mood, that he's sad, onto darkness. So we have transferred this adjective on darkness. And darkness means here cloud. The clouds were dark, right?
Yes, sir.
So the clouds were heavy and the poet also felt heavy inside. So the word melancholy was used actually for the poet's state of mind. But this adjective was transferred to describe darkness. Hence, this poetic device is known as transferred epithet. When we use an adjective that was used to describe something and we transfer it onto something else. Now, in the same manner here, who are shadows? The clouds, right? The
Yes,
humid
sir.
shadows, right? Uh, and the shadows are humid. But who, I mean, humid is here the tears, okay, right? The tears that roll out. That's the
Yes, sir.
quality, right? So who's crying? The poet, okay? The tears were maybe rolling down the cheeks. But now that quality is transferred onto shadows. To describe shadows, the word humid is used, hence transferred epithet. So these two are transferred epithets, meaning adjective that is used to describe, if I'm using intelligent as an adjective to describe Aman, but now I use it to describe someone else. This adjective was initially used to describe Aman, but now I'm using this adjective, I'm transferring this adjective to describe some other noun. That's a transferred epithet. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Right. I hope this is pretty clear to all of you. I'm going to mute you, Shriyansh, now. Children, today I'm going to upload this video, first thing, and two, I'll also upload the question answers that you have to do in your FAIR register. They will be uploaded in the Google Classroom. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can anytime send me a WhatsApp. I really appreciate for you for joining this class. Take care of yourself. Good night. God bless.